Hey YouTube, DDR Guy 300 here again with a rambling video about War the Spark Mythic Edition. And I wanted to touch on a couple of things, but the overall theme is just revisiting how botched this fiasco has continued to be. You have uh, the Wizards and the Hasbro issues from day one, which was, selling almost 50,000 units and just sticking with that 12,000 print run only thing. But the issues have just continued. It's like Hasbro, eBay, and Wizards of the Coast have, a week to try and do some kind of damage control, and the best that they've done is an email to people or an eBay message to people telling them, you congratulations, you're in the first 12,000, or sorry, you're not in the first 12,000. And there's been nothing else since then. And it's like, the community kind of, and I think people in general might give it the weekend because it's like, we get it. It's not, they're not working days, so let's see what happened Monday. Monday comes around, Tuesday comes around, and now it's Wednesday. Now it's a full week after this terrible, terrible rollout. And yeah, I just wanted to revisit how they've continued to screw things up. And first of all, I just wanted to say, hey, looky here. We've got a law firm that's actually decided to take up this whole situation as a class action suit against Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast for this entire debacle. And I have mixed feelings about it. Um, let's go ahead and get the negative out of the way. Um, actually, no, I'll start with the positive. The positive of this is I think it's really good that there's someone somewhere out there sending a message of, you know, collateral damage is not okay. When something happens where the fault lays back on you, and you actually create damages in some way or another, financial, emotional, whatever, what have you, that there has to be consequences. And I think that this is a very good um, example of someone standing up and saying, no, you need to be held accountable for this, because we live in an age now where it seems like more and more as time goes on, life seems to be more and more like, how would you put it? Just kind of being screwed over, in various areas, and, missing out on this opportunity, or having, like, for example here, this order canceled before it goes up. That happens a lot in TCG Player for, I've seen it in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I assume it happens in Magic and Pokemon too, where something gets bought out or something goes, sky high in price, and then the seller just decides they actually don't want to sell it even after the fact. So just that's kind of a very small example of the broader uh, culture that I'm trying to get at. And the broader culture I'm trying to get at is just this idea that life seems to be, at the end of the day, uh, a lot of lessons seem to be, get screwed over by someone or something, whatever it may be, a purchase, an expectation. Look at a lot of modern films. Look at the rollout of the new Star Wars movies. Thankfully, J.J. Abrams is going in a different direction now, and I didn't hate, The Last Jedi all that much. I thought it was actually pretty well done, but there's a lot of people that, disagree. Um, but beyond that, take those examples, take, like I said, expectations, whether it's um, basically anything in life where you know and you kind of feel that you were not delivered what was that something happened, something in the entropy of the world and the universe happened where you were the one left holding the bag, and someone else profited from that in some manner. And like I said, a lot of life is just going. A lot of life is at the end of the day accepting that and moving on. And I think this sends a really good message that that's not acceptable in some cases. That shouldn't be acceptable in most cases. And this class action suit is the players, the people who were harmed by this, coming out and saying, hey, you need to be held accountable. This isn't just another one of those things where we just have to get over it and say that's that and just accept it and move on with life. Because I think that's a very smart and important message to send. That there needs to be more accountability in the world than there really is, as far as things getting horribly botched. Um, so that's the positive of this that I have to say. The negative, it's very loose. You can go to this website and read all this. I'm not going to spout it off. But basically, if you placed an order, you received a confirmation, and then you had the order forcibly canceled, and the fourth point here that's important, have not authorized eBay to cancel the contract. That's the important part. Um, then you're eligible. And I think it's, first of all, just a little housekeeping. There is, let's see, do do do. eBay sent me an email asking me to consent to the cancel of sale. What should I do? I think it's funny that the one thing they're missing from this announcement is they don't actually explicitly say refuse to cancel the sale. Because if you don't take action in 7 days, guess what? That request to cancel the sale is already going to go through without your consent. So they're kind of missing that little tidbit, and it needs to be there because after 7 days passes, trust and believe you're going to have a handful of people who quote, are no longer, um, who no longer meet the criteria for going after this lawsuit, and that's going to be at least half, I'm sure. Just give it a week, and the next, um, give it a week, and the people that this law firm would be representing is going to get cut in half because of that, you know, legal loophole there. Um, and that's why that's kind of the negative of this. It's sending a strong message that needs to be sent, but at the end of the day, I have this feeling that it's just going to be an exercise in futility, because that is just not going to go through. That's very hard. I think what they're trying to do here is instead of, they actually say it right here, are you asking for Hasbro or Wizards to print more versions of the World Spark Mythic Edition? They say no. Lawsuit is about breach of contract claim only. I think what they're trying to prove here, I think their best uh, effort in winning this potentially would be to prove not so much breach of contract, but uh, a level of gross negligence that has collateral damage imposed on it or from it, because it's exactly what happened here. Go to one of my previous videos. I guess I'll link it in the description, um, where I talk about it. My first reaction after they come out and say, "Here's 12,000 prints only, and that's all they're going to get. Watch for an email." Um, because God forbid I look at anything glass half full in the video before that, where I'm like just talking theory as far as what happened that day, those hours, that hour, whatever, what happened, and what Wizards and Hasbro could do and should do, and instead we have, what we have now. So that's happening. Glass half full. These are messages that need to be put out there, because again, too much of the world kind of, there seems to be this business model that's followed pretty closely, where it's you make an attempt on something, whether it's a movie, a video game, a product, whatever it is you can think of, an item, whatever you can think of, and it's you try and you put it out there and you hope you succeed in whatever it is you're trying to do. And if you fail so horribly that it actually affects people in a significantly negative way, that it's just like that collateral damage is fine. Like as a business, you don't have to worry about that. The only thing you have to, it's like I talked about in my other video where it's money is the center of everything rather than it being a portion of a more well-rounded picture. So in this instance, the center of money here is how much was made, and how much was missed in terms of what we expected to make or what we wanted to make. This number, that number, okay, let's try and do better next time. And it's like you move that project to the side, or keep 10% of it active for whatever support that might be needed, whether it's a game or whatever it could possibly be. I guess a game is kind of on my radar as far as the prime example right now. But what I was getting at was that again, it seems to be this business model where it's you make the attempt, you see what the market, you see how the market receives it in terms of money made or not made, and there's a little bit of adjustment depending on the product, depending on if it's a game or a movie, or what. I mean movies too, because again, look at what J.J. Abrams is doing in the next Star Wars movie. But there's a little bit of awareness of how it's being received in order to tweak it to mitigate any future losses or any future issues. But again, that's with the center around continuing to get more money out of it. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at with this, except that it's just this class action is an important message. I hope something comes from it. I'm sure it won't, because again, it's the culture of just if you happened to be the one who got screwed in one particular scenario or another, oh well, get over it, move on in life, and that's it. And the only accountability the other party has to worry about is literally just how much money they made or didn't make, and it's not okay. So anyway, moving on from that, yeah, just talking about how horribly Wizards and Hasbro has handled this situation, and it's really funny to see all this negative feedback float in, and I hope they dip below 80%. I really do, um, because this was terrible, and it's funny. It's just people leaving negative feedback as far as not being able to get the product. We get it. All these that say here, where's a good example? No communication. I don't know if they'd actually communicate well or not, because this is kind of a unique scenario. Um, Anyone here that says, avoid, here we go, avoid at all costs, it's Hasbro. No one's going to avoid them. It's Hasbro. They might think twice after seeing this kind of negative feedback, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be too affected by this. Hopefully they are a lot, but I'm sure they won't be. But anyway, it's fun watching that roll in. Go give it a click if you've got time. Might make you feel a little better. And excuse me. To see these kinds of messages just flow in as far as agreeing to cancel the purchase. Oh man. Apparently Wizards actually released a statement that said something to the effect of don't agree to cancel it or we can't give you your money back. And I'm just like, I'm gonna go ahead and get a tinfoil hat theory out there really quick. Well, not really quick, after I continue to talk about this, because here's the lead into that theory. Hasbro apparently, after accepting so many thousands of orders of this in PayPal, instead of reversing the PayPal payment and having the order canceled that way, they instead wrote an echeck to PayPal to cover those transactions, or to cover the transactions they had to cancel. And first things first, that adds an unnecessary layer of complexity to the situation. And it's incredible that they decide that they wanted to go that route, that needlessly complicated route, because the end user experience of that is just going to be something even worse on top of the already bad situation, to where people aren't getting their money back, to where there's this confusion of, if I paid with a card, it says it's going back through PayPal, and they don't even have a PayPal. And there are so many steps in this, what you call it, there are so many steps in this aftermath that have gone horribly, that it's crazy that they continue to have these mess ups. um, anyway, what I was getting at with um, the little tinfoil hat theory is, I wonder if Hasbro actually issued that echeck instead of actual refunds, actual, just reversal of PayPal payment, in order to give themselves like a certain degree of separation from the transaction. I wonder if legally, this whole class action suit actually won't even go through because of this um, argument that they might make, where it's like, well, we didn't actually refund their payment that way. We refunded it a different way. And I'm wondering if their like legal team decided that was the right thing to do, since they have, $10 million worth of orders, that if they refund it a specific way or a different way, that they'd actually be looking at a lot of damages. So instead of doing the easy way, that if maybe they're making it harder on everyone else, so they can put themselves, again, a degree or two of separation away from actual eBay refunds. I don't know. It's just, with the way they've handled all of this, has just been awful. Thanks for letting us know that we'll be getting messages and having people get the messages that were gotten. But then on both of those scenarios, like, that's the best you did up to that point. For the people who got their emails that said congratulations, you're getting it, watch for shipping information, I still haven't gotten shipping information. And there are people who are actually getting, I mean, these are the more happy ones, but there are people who are getting orders from they're getting their orders shipped in, and they're already coming to their house without shipping information even being provided. And I find that real interesting, because I mean, I'm sure Hasbro has some kind of contract with FedEx, but that's how these are being shipped out. FedEx. So the way you're going to update people's orders is you're going to have to go in and manually put in their tracking number. And maybe that's what it looks like, because you would think, even if there is a contract with Hasbro and FedEx to be shipping their stuff, you'd think there'd be some kind of automated process with, whatever shipping label has to be manufactured and produced with this item has some kind of a number attached to it that will automatically update eBay's shipping information. Because, if you're just some rinky-dink seller and you sell an item and you can print out postage at home, once you print out that postage, it goes directly there. It goes directly to the item that was sold in eBay, that you sold in eBay. And you'd think that with a company as big as Hasbro, you'd think that there'd be a situation where the same thing would take effect, that they'd have something in place, because it's not automated, they'd have to set it up, right? But where there'd be something in place to where your order gets updated with the information that just got printed or through the system, or whatever it is you want to call it, with FedEx. And it seems like that system doesn't exist, because the people who are getting boxes that got shipped just aren't even, and it seems like everyone who's getting information, it's coming from FedEx, everyone whose boxes got shipped and are already there, it's like, clearly the information should have already been there. So it's almost like, it feels like it's just being, or not being, manually entered by just, some person, some person who works there. And that's really laughable. And the fact that people like me, who have a couple of confirmed orders, are just sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for tracking information. You got people like me just worried, they could completely screw this up again, and I could be completely SOL, and that little confirmation of congratulations, you got your item could just be, they could just completely reverse that and be like, oh, sorry, there was an error or something and you didn't actually get the boxes. Because that's what a lot of people are experiencing right now who have confirmed orders. Because after, Monday and Tuesday, it's like, all right, I've given you some latitude. Where's my information? Or am I just going to get screwed like the rest of these people? And then by the other token, you have the people whose orders were canceled, and you have this whole Hasbro writing an echeck thing, and that because apparently that echeck needed a couple days to clear from Hasbro to get paid to eBay to issue the refunds that are still barely trickling in at best. You've got that group of people who got screwed out of their orders expecting refunds and just taking days and days and days to get them. And someone like the average person, I feel like the average person would probably be fine to wait a couple of days, but it's just like you're not creating a good situation. You're giving people a lot of unease, especially with this whole, please respond to this order cancellation where you're getting this information that if you cancel it, you won't be able to get a refund. And it's like, what? You could have handled this so much better. Like, you already screwed up the launch of the item. You already screwed up putting it for sale horribly to, again, a degree of gross negligence to where you should be sued into oblivion for it. Again, link in the description, but I just tear Wizards of the Coast a new one of where it's just like all you did was you talked for 10 minutes about what to do for the next Mythic Edition and then walked away from it instead of thinking it through. A phrase which I use a crap ton in that video, but again, go check that out if you want to, but that's just another example of, not another example, that's the initial you messed up big time event. And now as time is progressing, they just continue to mess it up big time as time goes on. And it's like all you had to do once you realized there was a problem was, you know, first of all, no apology has been issued, which I really hope there will be at some point. Um, that's number one. Number two, you already know you screwed up. All you had to do after knowing you screwed up was just make sure you don't continue to screw up. And the fact that these refunds are going through terribly, the fact that people aren't getting tracking information, the fact that it's FedEx, like, it just continues to be a terrible, terrible, terrible rollout. And it's like when you realize that you screwed it up that badly, your goal at that point should have just been get the people who did get the product it in a timely manner and get them, their shipping information so that it shows they make sure that end user experience is at least better than what they already have. And for the people who didn't get it, make sure they're getting their money quickly. And again, don't make the end user experience worse. And it's like it has just been worse um, at every turn. And we continue to see the fallout here of just the boxes approaching, $900, and it's going to. That's part of what this is going after. I believe they're going to do it to where, again, they're going to try and prove gross negligence, but where the damages paid are going to be the difference in what they would have had to shell out. So say it reaches $900, or geez, I didn't think of that. No, they'll make an argument against that. If it goes as far as it does, uh, Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro or even eBay would try to make the claim that, oh, after it's sold out, you could have bought it for 500 or 450, but that's going to be easily countered of, well, actually, if you notice the trends when you came out and said, no, we're still sticking with the 12,000 print, guess what? The price has changed drastically. So pony up the dough for that. So I don't know. Even best case scenario, if they actually by some miracle did pull this off, and they got this fair market value difference, let's say, what's the difference right now? 550 about. They're going to take a third of that, for their fees. So what's that? 180 something dollars. So shave off 180. What's that leave you with? 370 maybe, three something like that. So people who actually go in on this might, see a significant chunk that they would have gotten otherwise, but I don't know. It's sad to see this, and again, and I have concerns about this. I still have concerns about this in terms of there are too many holes that there are too many holes that people can kind of fall through in this. There are too many legal loopholes that this lawsuit could encounter to where it's just like, well, it's got to get thrown out now. Like, again, people canceling their orders after they've been, requested to. Um, Geez, let's see what else. If you, I don't think the eBay. First of all, apparently we're getting 20 bucks in eBay bucks. It's not enough. 50 should have been the absolute minimum. Minimum. All right. Because it's the, it's incredible that I say in my other video they need to not be Bethesda and offer people $5 in-game currency for the people who bought the Fallout 76 limited edition or whatever the heck it was, and get this crappy nylon bag. It's kind of proportionally almost the same because if you think about it, instead of a $200 product, now if you want it, it becomes an $800 product, right? The Mythic Edition sealed. We'll just say 800 for argument's sake. And they're offering, I mean, granted, hopefully Wizards comes out with something at least good for the people who got screwed. I won't even say great at this point, but at least something good for those players. But as of right now, guess what your compensation is? Proportional to that. The $20 to the 800 versus 5 to the 200. Oh, that's laughable. But anyway, like I was saying, I feel like there are a lot of holes in that this lawsuit could potentially fall through, like people having their orders canceled, that idea of, or people accepting canceled orders, that idea of, I'm sorry, people accepting their canceled orders, that's a little less gray, but more gray is if they don't respond by 7 days and having it forcefully canceled. What do you do then? It's easy to just sweep them under the rug, legally speaking. Hasbro writing this really shady ass echeck to PayPal and the legal implications there, and it's just, I wish this law firm the best. I wish the people who go after this the best, but my gut feeling is gonna kind of be this is just gonna be another exercise in futility, and at the end of the day, the people are again those affected are again just gonna have to go through the the motions in life of crap happened to you, be depressed about it, be sad about it, but ultimately all that can happen is you just have to get over it. Like it falls on you to just accept it and move on. And again, it's not something that's okay. It really isn't, because again, we can't have this culture where it's just the company making whatever thing it's making. The only metric they look at is money, and there's nothing else to well round that out. So anyway, I think I'm getting to the point where I'm rambling, so I'll just wrap up the video here. I think this sends a good message that's antithetical to literally what I just said. That's antithetical to the idea of, just accept that you got screwed and move on. I think it's a very good thing, but I think at the end of the day, that's all that it's going to be doing is sending a message. And that's another thing. If this actually by some miracle goes through, this is like Supreme Court case level of like citation almost, because you can, where does it say here? Basically to where, right here, entering into a legally binding contract to purchase an item when you commit to buy, blah, 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 blah. This could be an interesting future if it gets through, because there are a lot of times where I've talked about in the beginning of the video where people will just cancel orders when something skyrockets, or when people, buy an item and the seller realizes, oh, I can get more for it, and decide, well, I want more for it, I'm just going to cancel it, say I don't have it, whoops-a-daisy. And they can, if this goes through, the implication is interesting. So much so that eBay, on the worst day would have to change their policy to where, if you sell someone an item and you don't deliver on the item, guess what? You're going to have to pay damages in what the item would cost them now, which honestly, that's kind of what needed to happen. Not, I won't say that's what needed to happen, but it's like if you ever get shafted in that scenario that's like that, you're gonna feel that way. It's like, well, what the hell? Now you need to like make this right, and making this right is, I'll give you an example. I bought this one card for a collection. It was a Yu-Gi-Oh card, but I bought this one card for a collection, and eventually the package did arrive, even though it took forever. But it was like a $2 card that I bought, and when it's getting into that nether region of is it coming or is it not coming, the card skyrockets to $10 for like meta reasons, and I'm just like, well, if I want it now, guess what I'm gonna have to shell out, and I don't know. It would be interesting to see how this unfolds, because if this actually goes completely through, the implications is like, again, Supreme Court level like citation of like, according to Wizards versus the People or whatever the hell you want to call it. Um, it could enter into an age where, if you don't make good on what you had and are no longer sending, well, guess what? You're gonna need to pay up. So that would be an interesting implication. I don't know. I think I'm running out of steam here, so I'll just go ahead and wrap it up. Um, Love to hear you guys' thoughts. Like, subscribe if you want. Go check out those other videos. And I'll be back eventually. I'm not shelling out a video every day now, but I'll try to every 2 or 3 days. I'm trying to think of a new video topic, but it's kind of it's hard getting everything down on it. So we'll see where I end up going with it. But for now, that's all I got. DDR guy signing out.